Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today will be my game week 1 team selection ahead of Friday's deadline at 6:30. I'm going to leave timestamps below if you want to skip in. I'm sure a lot of people just want to see the team. If not, and you want to listen to me waffle, you're more than welcome to stay. Feel free to hit that like button while you're there and subscribe. And thank you for joining me for another season. So let's get straight into it. Before we get into the team that's in front of you, I want to quickly say I'm doing a deadline stream on Friday. I'll be starting 2 hours before the deadline. So the deadline's at 6:30. So I imagine I'll be starting at 4:30. Be sure to tune in. The team is subject to change. Now, I'll tell you the potential changes that I'm thinking, but a lot of this team is fairly locked, and I can't imagine too much changing before then. For anyone that is new and doesn't know me, I'm a former world number 2, and I've two decent top 5k finishes, and there's a mini league code in front of you. So let's get straight into the team. On goal, we've got Robert Sanchez. Now, for me, Robert Sanchez is my favorite 5 million Chelsea asset. As getting into that Chelsea defense is quite pricey unless you're going to go with a Reece James or a Cucurella. And there is one potential option who I do like in Tosin, but at 4.5 million, I can't say he's nailed. And even if he does play the first few, I don't know how his position in the team looks going forward with Levi Colwill out. But Robert Sanchez, the other option for me is Sells. But as you can see, I've got double Forest defense, and I really do like it. We've got Murillo, who I want to talk about first, who is a DEFCON monster. As you know, with the new rule changes, we have to start picking our players differently, and I'm adjusting to it. I really think Murillo, regardless of how you expect Forest to do this year, he should still pick up some really good points at the back for Forest. And he was one of the highest scoring defenders last year, if you counted the new rules. And even without the new rules, he scored really well how Forest did. Forest overall, I don't expect him to do as well as he did last year. Of course, they almost made it into those Champions League spots, and we heard that they're after securing the Europa League. But I still think Forest will be a good defence, keeping 5 clean sheets in their preseason games, even though they're struggling to score goals. And next at 5 million, we have Nico Williams, who plays Brentford at home. Also, at 5 million, I feel like he is really good value. When you're looking at the Forest guys, they're all 5 or 5.5, but William has a small bit of attacking threat and also some decent DEFCON numbers for a fullback. Talking about fullbacks next, we're going to move on to Pedro Porro, who comes in at 5.5 million. Anyone who is watching this video, you'll see that I have a Spurs jersey on. Yes, I am a Spurs fan. Yes, I did watch the Super Cup last night and absolutely good. But you would know that Pedro Porro played quite well at 5.5 million. He is on our set pieces, our free kicks, our corners, and he even got an assist in the Super Cup versus PSG. I thought he had a really good game. He was quite solid. And in pre-seasons, he's after picking up some DEFCON numbers. Now, Spurs are a really interesting talking point, and I really don't know. I'm trying not to give my biased opinions on what I expect for the season. But overall, I would say under Thomas Frank, you can expect a more solid structured approach and a bit more tactical, maybe adjusting to more attacking teams or teams who you'd expect to be and have more possession of the ball. Against PSG, I think it was really telling how we set up, 5 at the back. And to be fair, with a 5 at the back, even though Jet Spence was on the wing, I think we played really impressive. So Pedro Porro with that first game with Burnley at home. If you can look past the City game, I plan to free hit in game week 2, so I can easily look past that City game, which is away. But even at that, Spurs are not too bad versus City generally. And with Thomas Frank, who does set up quite well against these bigger teams, who done really well with Brentford against these bigger sides, I would trust him to play him in that second game anyway. So Pedro Porro, I really do like him. And before we move on to the midfield, let's get onto the bench. So on the bench, we've got Dubravka, Esteve, Gahey, and Krupi Jr. So Dubravka is just default 4.0 pick. Esteve, who I feel like at 4 million, he's going to play. And if I wanted, I could start him in that second game ahead of Porro. Again, he has some decent attacking threat, and you wouldn't expect much from the 4.0s. Next is Gahey, who is 4.5. Again, there was a lot of talk if he was going to join Liverpool. But for me, because I'm not going to play him in these first 3, I think regardless of where he ends up, if he gets a transfer, which I'm unsure if I see that, or if he stays at Palace, which is also a good case, I suppose. He's really good for DEFCON, and he only comes in at 4.5 million. So if I don't plan to play him in the first 3, I think he's fine to hold on to, because regardless of what team he joins, he will get minutes for me. And looking at other options, the likes of Dorgu, who I do like for United, he has that really nice Burnley fixture in game week 3. Burnley or Sunderland, I don't know which order it is, but in game week 7 they also have Burnley slash Sunderland. I'll have to fact check that, and I could end up going with Dorgu, but I don't know about Dorgu. He doesn't, even though he's playing wing back, doesn't give much attacking threat. I just feel like I'd play the fixtures, but that's Gahey. And next is Krupi Jr., who I just have as a default 4.5. Again, he's a forward. Nothing special here. I'm not trying to show you a gem or anything, but for me, it is just a 4.5 asset that not many people own. And with the likes of Marquis, who's joining Sunderland, it doesn't look like he's going to be fit for the start of the season. And therefore, I imagine that some people might lose team value on him. So I've just stuck with someone who's not going to play and not many people own. So on that point, let's move straight onto the midfield. So moving on to the midfield five, we've got Cody Gakpo, Bruno Fernandes, Mohamed Kudus, Cole Palmer, and Anderson for Forest. Now, I really, really like this midfield, and it's not changed too much over the last week, even though my team has changed quite a bit overall. I keep going back to the same players. I suppose the main player and token point for the team, which I know not many people like, and I can respect it, but it is Bruno Fernandes. For me, Bruno, this year at 9 million, it comes in at a fair price. I don't think he's at by any means underpriced, but I feel like with the game week 3 fixture and the game week 7 fixture, like I spoke with Dorgu, he could come in with my team with no Salah as a really good captain. Now, Manchester United are after signing 3 clinical finishes in my eyes, and I think that was a large part of Bruno's problem in the last few seasons. He's generating chances for strikers who are not converting, and this is probably tampered with his numbers a small bit. Now, he's still going to be on free kicks, corners, and penalties also. He doesn't have a very favourable opening fixture, but at least it's at home. That's the only way I can look at it. But from then on, I feel like Bruno can pick up some good DEFCON even in some of the more difficult fixtures. Again, we probably expect him to play in the 8 role, which I don't mind at all if I'm being honest, because hopefully he picks up those 2 extra points in games, and then his ceiling can be even raised higher with his often contribution to goals and assists. When United tend to do well, he's often involved. So moving on from Bruno Fernandes, who is a controversial one, and I can respect that, let's go to Cody Gakpo, who I'm not seeing in many teams. At 7.5 million, I think he's really good value coming in with his first game with Bournemouth at home. Now, again, like Bruno, the fixtures are not the greatest for Liverpool, and I have no Mo Salah, and I want to talk you through that in just a second after we move on from Gakpo. But as you can imagine, 7 million less than Mohamed Salah. And it looks like I'm going to have to pick a different captain every week. And of course, that only leaves room for one man up top again. We'll get into that in just a second. But I feel Gakpo with Luis Diaz gone is great value. And I'm more than happy to just go with one Liverpool asset for the time being. That's not to say that throughout the whole season I won't go back to Salah. Again, AFCON is coming up at some point. So there'll be a window, I imagine, between maybe 8 and 15 where I'll bring in Salah. Again, I'm not looking that far down the line, but I'm just trying to get a good idea. And I feel like there's a lot of points to be able to be made up in these first few weeks without him. So that's Cody Gakpo for me, just to have a piece of that Liverpool team who are inevitably going to score a lot of goals, whether it's going to come through Wirtz, Ekitike, Gakpo, or Salah. I'm unsure. I imagine a lot output would come through Salah, which I'm not saying it won't, but I'm more than happy to take a risk. And for anyone that has been in this channel before, you know what I'm about. So on that, let's move on to Mohamed Kudus, who, like I said, in the Super Cup played really, really well for Spurs against PSG. He was really bright in that first half, and unfortunately got taken off, which I don't think he should have. But again, with this Burnley fixture 3 days later at home, to keep in mind, as an FPL asset, I suppose it does make him a bit better. We've seen Kudus play a really interesting position, and I don't think it's going to replicate what we're going to see versus Burnley. In this PSG Super Cup game, we've seen him playing almost a 10 position or a right forward, where you see Mbeumo for Brentford. But I don't know if that's going to be his role versus Burnley. Either way, if I were to guess where he's going to play, it will probably be on that right wing coming in centrally. Kudus does love playing central, and he's often spoke about this. But I feel like he is a great option at 6.5 million going into the start of the season. I feel like I understand if you don't want to go for him. A lot of people don't know what they're going to get with him. But overall, I would say definitely some good value in my opinion, and a great opening fixture. So moving on to the next player, which is Cole Palmer, 10.5 million. He's the one player who's been in every single one of my drafts. I'm not going to hold you too long on Cole Palmer. But again, he's another really good captain if I'm not looking to throw it on a different player in this team. And with no Salah, I need to hang my hat on someone. And I feel like Chelsea have the fixtures. He comes in at a reasonable price of 10.5. He's on free kicks, corners, you name it. He's the main man. He's the talisman. And no more on Cole Palmer, really. Next is Elliot Anderson, who comes in at 5.5. He is the budget midfielder in my team, and he'll tick away nicely with DEFCON. Again, he is one that he's more so involved in the community on Twitter, I would say, and anyone on YouTube. But it's for a good reason. DEFCON new rules, he averages really, really good numbers last season. And now you could feel like he may take up more responsibility with Alanga out of the team. So if he can contribute to attacking threat and get goals and assists alongside the defensive contributions, he could be a great asset. And again, favourable fixtures just like Nico Williams and Murillo. So that's the defence. Let's move on to the forwards. So moving on straight to the forwards, we've got Ollie Watkins and Erling Haaland. Now Erling Haaland will be my captain for game week 1 against Wolves away. It is a bit tighter than what I've thought with Crystal Palace at home for Cole Palmer, but for me, I'm going to play the fixture, even though it is a away game, and notably the only away fixture in my team. But let's start with Erling Haaland. I feel like he's being criminally underrated come the start of the season, and I don't really understand why. In previous seasons, we've seen him start the season with an absolute bang. And I feel like City were quite underwhelming last year. They're after strengthening in all areas, the likes of Ori, Cherky, Reinders. And players like Foden and Marmoush are still around. I can't imagine Foden would be much worse than he was last season. And again, without Salah, I need a captaincy, and I fancy Haaland. Next week is Tottenham at home if I don't decide to free hit. But I just fancy Haaland overall, and he's been a player who's been in every single draft since the game has been released. So I trust him. I think there's a lot of points to be made up again. I'm most likely going to be going against the most captain every single week in Salah. But again, that means there's going to be lots of points to make up, and I'm willing to take a risk at the start of the season. If you're not going to do it, if you're ever going to take a risk, surely it would be at the start of the season. And this could backfire. I'm not doubting that, but I'm a risky type manager, and I'm more than happy to do it. So moving on to a less risky asset, Ollie Watkins, who's outscored Haaland in the last 2 seasons. Coming in at a hefty price, I feel like Watkins is a no-brainer almost. With the likes of Solanke being out at 7.5, who I think provide a lot of value. And you have the other 7.5 options and Gyökeres as well. I just feel like Watkins is the certain one for me. We know he's trustworthy, and he's underperformed a small bit last season. He had the numbers, he just wasn't converting as well as we know he can. Villa, who we'd expect to be good again this season, and who have looked good in for a while now. I trust Ollie Watkins to lead the line, even though I don't expect him to be on penalties. But Villa also have some decent fixtures. So there is the team wrapped up. Do like, comment, and subscribe, because I'm going to get back to every single comment ahead of tomorrow's deadline. I'm really excited for the season. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Again, it is an unusual team. Do expect it to change before the deadline. One player I'd love is Morgan Rogers, who's firmly on my radar. And when I look at my team, I'd also like a City defender. So things could change. I don't think it'll change drastically, but keep an eye out and be here for my deadline stream tomorrow. So that will be the end of the video. And as usual, lads, I will see you in the next.